And we're live. Oh my goodness. So I'm still trying to get ready. Hi, Kara. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just
I'm
looking
really
forward to
excited about
this.
ghosts. Yeah, really excited about ghost stories. Can't wait. Okay, I'm gonna get plugged in. We'll let some people come in, and uh, this is really neat because I don't really know anything about Chicago, so this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, this is my hometown, so this is definitely where I shine with all the spookiness, especially since my family are a bunch of ghost lovers.
We had fun yesterday on that show with Deborah Voorhees. That was great.
Oh, she is amazing.
She's so sweet. She's so wonderful. Um, and then also, 13 Fanboy, her movie is coming out on DVD March 8th.
Eighth.
Yeah, so you guys pre order it. It's so worth it. Hi, everybody. We'll start saying hi to people.
Hi,
And
guys.
look at her
Hi,
doggy. So
Kate.
cute.
Oh,
Hi, how are you?
hi.
Two of the people that watch all the time. I love it. And and they're even saying hi to each other. I love that. So we've got some people watching. Yes, yesterday was a big day having a celebrity on the show. Gee, the orbs are out.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Hi, Kimmy.
hey, Kimmy. And so anyway, tonight, Chicago, part one, because I guess you have enough stories that we can, do a part two or maybe a part three even.
Gosh, with the amount of ghost stories in Chicago, you could probably do 7 or 8 parts and just not even get to all of them.
Wow.
But it's a
You
lot of
guys,
haunting.
Cara tells me all these great stories, and I'm not one to get, scared or whatever. But my goodness, you've told some, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait until we get to all these other stories because some of them are so scary, and and I love it. I love it. I go, that's so cool.
Hi,
Um,
Shelby.
Look at everybody that's coming in. This is great. Everybody's ready. I want you guys to set the mood. I put on a blue light to set the mood and turned out all my lights to make it dark in here. So, what is what a big whiny? Let me put you up. I see ghosts in my room and shadow figures that follow me home from a nearby graveyard. Do you want them
Oh,
to? Because, if you don't want them to, uh, private message me. I'll tell you what to do. I take care of that stuff. We always, when you leave a graveyard, you really do need to tell um, everybody, all the entities, that they're not allowed to hitchhike home. No way. And the shadow figures, do they scare you or they seem, ominous? What kind of feeling do you get from them? We'll see if we get that. Well, we have a lot of people ready for ghost stories. See if you do you have a feeling of what those ghost guys are like? Because sometimes people get really not good vibes from them. Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Debbie.
I love your name.
Oh, we're just a little bit partial to that name.
A little bit. A little bit. That's funny. Um, no, they don't scare me. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, the children that come home with you aren't children. Okay. They're not. Um, a lot of times, and something will present itself as a child. Did anybody freaking see the old Dracula show where it says, don't invite them in?
Yes, yes, yes,
Don't.
yes.
There's a child. Open the door. Hello. No, it's a no. Do not invite the children to come home because they're not children. They're the
Again,
more
that's
darker things. Oh my gosh. So anyway, yeah, yeah. Only the children that come home with you scare you, and that would give you a yeah, a heads up. So anyway, Cara, tell us a little bit about Chicago and how you know about it.
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago on the Northwest side, which we always say is the best side. Um, and Chicago is, you know, I know that people think that it's only, 150 years old. Technically, it's a lot older. The city goes back to the early 1830s, but somehow the clock was restarted during the Great Chicago Fire in 1871.
Wow.
Um, and well, 99% of the city was destroyed because the buildings were made of wood. But now that's why you see a lot of the buildings, a lot of the homes and things that were rebuilt after are brick and mortar
Mhm.
because of that reason, because it was like a tinderbox. It was one after the other. The wind blew and all the houses just caught fire. And the only buildings to survive, which one of them is actually part of a story tonight, uh, was the Chicago Historical Society. The outside survived, the inside did not. And the water tower survived, and then one of the main Catholic churches survived, one of the cathedrals, Holy Name. Those are the only main buildings that survived. I mean, there were a few others, but not any that were, really famous. But yeah, it was interesting growing up in Chicago because we went on field trips, and our field trips consisted of going to the Sears Tower. We do not call it Willis. We will never call it Willis. It is the Sears Tower. Um, and going to Lincoln Park Zoo, which also has hauntings, and Navy Pier, very haunted place. Um, so you kind of get that sense, and plus all the folklore that surrounds all of the different hauntings are commonplace. Young children know. They say Resurrection Mary, and a young child will go, "I know her. She gets into cars."
Oh
So
my gosh.
it's very interesting. And
That's really neat. Um, the Chicago fire, was that the one that was started by the cow, they think?
it was legend.
Oh,
It
okay.
was a rumor. It really had no basis in truth. It was an urban legend that was started. But Mrs. O'Leary's son, who was kind of part of one of the mobs, built a house in Inglewood, which today is still standing. As a matter of fact, is up for sale. Um, it has two giant walk-in vaults. It actually has an underground tunnel leading from that house to the house next door, but has since been sealed.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he built that house for his mom after the Chicago fire.
Oh, well,
So,
I grew up singing a song about it.
oh,
The
did
cow
you?
kicked. Yeah. Okay. It's something like one dark night when we were all in bed. Old Lady Larry lit a lantern in the shed, and the cow kicked it over. And something, something, something. There'll be a hot time in the old town tonight. And I remember I was really little, and I didn't know what that meant. You know.
Yeah,
So
it was actually I mean, they believe it's possible, but not the way the fire spread. They think it was something else that started it. But that's
so
also
you.
the reason we have firefighters the way we do today is
Oh,
because
right.
of the firefighters that they had horse and buggies
Hmm.
and things, and that's how the firefighters improved.
Hmm.
The equipment and everything improved based on the Chicago fire.
Oh my gosh. So you kind of think that from that disaster changed the energy somehow, and then all the ghost stories started?
I think that pre-Chicago fire, the Native Americans who lived there, who actually named it Chicago or Shalagi, um, there was always something there. It was spiritual ground to them. There was something there. There was always something dark, but and sorrowful.
Oh,
So
God.
there was always something felt. Um, there going back more than 300 years.
Oh my gosh. I am asking everybody to share the show if you can. I'm typing it as I speak. That's how we're going to gain all our followers, and we can be on every week, and we can do a podcast and talk about ghosts. We're going to be having guests on, and when we get to that point, because this is our second show. I hope you guys saw the Appalachian Mountains ghost stories that we did. I should say Cara did last week. That was really neat. And, these are her stories, and that makes it so interesting. So, do you have a specific story that you want to start off with?
I do. I want to kick off with one of the most famous stories that leads to some of the most it's intertwined ghosts and hauntings. The Eastland Disaster. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of this, but in July of 1915, the Western Electric Company was planning a huge company picnic, and people were coming down and going to the Chicago River, where they had the ships that were going to be ferrying them through Lake Michigan and over to Michigan City, Indiana. Well, the first ship happened to be the SS Eastland. It's a big steel ship. It was big.
Let me know when you want me to put any pictures up, because that's new, you guys. We have pictures.
Yeah. Oh, well, you could put the Eastland up now. That would probably be good.
Okay.
But they overloaded. The ship should only have had 2,300 people on it, and they put over 3,000. And a lot of them were on the top deck, waving and looking out, and it caused the boat to literally tip over into the Chicago River. 844 people, including 22 entire families, lost their lives and drowned in this disaster. But that's where the hauntings begin. There were 3 specific places that were used as makeshift morgues for these almost 1,000 people. One of them was the Reed Murdoch building. And that's downtown. It's off of LaSalle. And one of the things that the building has experienced since being a makeshift morgue is people see lights flickering on and off where there's no one on the floor. You will hear noises like children playing in the hallways, which seems to be a common theme because so many children lost their lives in this. They also have the down by the when you're on one floor, you hear people running and walking. I know it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. But you see all kinds of spectral orbs in a lot of the floors of the first, second. And there's even ghost tours that have taken people there, and they have seen the lights flicker on and off, and have heard people crying and children laughing. And it's a very emotional thing for some people, or at least it was. 107 years later, I don't even know if many Chicagoans have carried on the history. I would hope they would, but I don't know. But that leads us to one of the wilder hauntings that actually has been documented by the Chicago Police Department.
Oh,
and
wow.
Chicago Fire Rescue, Water Rescue. There are some restaurants on the lakefront, or I should say the riverfront. And people have seen from there and the Clark Street Bridge, they have seen hands coming up from the water. They have heard cries for help. They have seen apparitions floating in the water, and they've actually called the police, and the police have gone to investigate, and there's been nothing there.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
But they have documented it where people have called in and said there's someone drowning in the river.
Oh my gosh.
Or crying for help or reaching up, and then they just disappear.
Can you imagine, like, looking out at the water? You're having a nice dinner, so you look at the water and these hands are
coming up.
Fair. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And now that leads into Harpo Studios, which is Oprah's studio. If anyone watched the Oprah Winfrey Show, she had bought the second armory and turned it into Harpo Studios. And Harpo Studios, that building was one of the makeshift morgues. And there's some famous ghosts that are haunting there too. They have little children running down the halls backstage and laughing. In one of the restrooms, now I was a guest on Oprah's show when I was 19 with my family. And being in one of the green rooms and having your makeup done and going to the restroom and hearing someone in there with you was pretty freaky. But I felt someone was in there with me and no one was.
Wow.
So that was kind of interesting. But they actually caught, the security guards have gone rushing for hearing crashing noises and things at night. Nothing has been there, nothing out of place. But these loud booms sound like someone has thrown something or, stomped or kicked or pounded on something. But there's nothing there. The one thing they have caught was the gray lady. On security camera, they caught an apparition of a woman in a gray dress, the dresses that you would see from the 1915s, the old corsets, the bustles, everything. That was actually caught on film, on security camera.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I should have looked for that picture.
I didn't even think of it. It probably was put in. I'm sure the Sun-Times or the Tribune probably ran a story on that. They've gotten some other ones before, so you never know. But her studio was completely haunted, and they tore the building down. But I'm always curious to wonder if the hauntings are still going on the actual ground.
I know that. I always tend to think that they survive even if they tear the place down. I think they go stay there or find something. They must move on. If they can't transition to the other side, they'll maybe move in a group or move, independently onto something else because they do like to see what's going on,
Oh, yeah.
and stay involved. Let me talk about those loud booms because my house, when it was really haunted and things were happening, because I ward it now, we would be downstairs and we would hear something fall, like a box of books, and somebody let go and boom. So for many times and a couple years, we would run up to see what fell, and there would be nothing because we have all these empty bedrooms, and we're just like, now I go, nothing, we got nothing. And it would just happen all the time. And so then we just forget about it, and we know it's paranormal activity. And for whatever reason, do they want us to come up there? Do they want to communicate? I don't know. But that was one of the things that always happened. So when you said that, I'm going, yes, yes, yes. It sounds, you can hear it. And there's absolutely nothing in the bedroom. And you're going, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
no. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's fine. That's it.
Oh, I was going to say there's the creepiest haunting based off of the Eastland actually has multiple hauntings that are from three different eras in time. The Excalibur nightclub, which closed and then became Club Castle, and now it's actually a restaurant, was the old Historical Society building. Big Gothic. I think you got a picture of that one. It's a big Gothic building with gargoyles on the outside. Very, very, very Gothic, very creepy vibe. That was also used as a makeshift morgue for the Eastland, but it also has another interesting history. Since it was the Historical Society, the man who built the building claimed that it was actually fireproof. So 3 women ran into the Historical Society during the Chicago fire in order to try and save themselves, and they were never seen again. The custodian of the historical society had jumped out a second floor window, and when he came around, he saw the women going in, but the building was up in flames on the inside. So those 3 women died there, and they have been seen at the Excalibur as well. But the interesting one is when the a lawyer in Chicago purchased the historical society when they moved to another building, he turned it into his mansion. It's got this big, huge 70-foot dome. It's amazing. The building itself, the architecture is phenomenal. He bought it in the 1920s, 1930s era, and he hung himself from the 70-foot dome in the dome room. And he's been known to haunt the area. But the Excalibur has some really strange hauntings. There's a candle that lights up and floats 70 feet above in the dome room, up near the top of the dome, where it's not quite possible for that thing to be floating by itself. It's just there. Children are running through the different rooms and laughing and playing. I was there in the early 90s, and I was a little tipsy, so I can't tell you for sure if I imagined it. I was standing there in the third floor bar having a drink, and out of the corner of my eye, I literally saw someone walk through a wall. To this day, I don't know if it was the alcohol I was consuming or if I really saw someone disappear through the wall. But it was enough to scare me and say, okay, it's time to go home.
Oh my gosh. Unless you were really, really drinking, I think that you probably did see that,
Yeah, I'm thinking too, and there's also been the 3 women on one of the balconies overlooking one of the dance floors in older outfits. So I'm wondering if that's the 3 women who were killed during the Chicago fire.
Wow.
Because their bodies were found.
Yeah, if they're wearing period costumes, unless it's a docent thing going on, there's a reason. There's a lot of people that have walked into the past. And you probably heard some of the stories. They'll be in a ghost town or something, and they'll just take a few steps, and all of a sudden, everything's happening around them.
Oh yes.
And so I feel like we were just discussing this with Deborah Voorhees about walking into another dimension, which I did doing a past life reading, and in participating. So they can just they're there. And I would say that is probably take a good look, because maybe that is a ghost.
Oh, yes, definitely. But there's the building itself, just the look and the atmosphere of it. It's almost like a conduit or an attraction, like a magnet for entities to enter. Just the feel. Even the gargoyles are kind of terrifying.
Right. I do feel that when you have the death of a lot of people at once, and maybe the Twin Towers thing, maybe like that, you can see that ship and all those people that died. And you said 22 families?
Entire families, yes.
There had to be this energy there, even if it's imprinted in time and space, or they end up, as souls and spirits walking around. This is such a terrible tragedy.
It was, and it actually gave way. The Titanic, yes, with the lifeboats and things, but this one really helped transform how the life jackets were distributed at some point. Sometimes before, if you were going on a small trip on the lake or an ocean or whatever, they would have you wear the life jackets on board right away,
Right.
or
You
offer
can,
them to you.
when you look at this and they had all those people, on the deck, it really is, I think the word is listing towards the water, which is amazing. It's like, what were they doing? And it's amazing this happened. And so many people were lost when they were so close,
A lot of
right
them were
there.
trapped underneath the hull. They were trapped below deck.
Okay.
Many,
Oh
many
my.
on board on the top, especially women and children, drowned because their heavy garments pulled them under. But so many were trapped in the hull, and they actually did rescue a lot. It could have been a lot worse because 3,000 people were on there, and really only 844 died.
Oh my
So
gosh. But that's huge.
it is, but I mean, it could have been a lot worse if they had
Right.
not thought to open those port windows and start grabbing people out when it was on its side. How many of those people would have died?
Right.
It's not like they had scuba dive equipment that they could just, jump in the water with some fins and
Yeah.
go help.
Right.
So this was a pretty amazing thing. There's an interesting kind of trivia fact too. I don't know if there's any Chicago Bears fans, but everyone knows who Papa Bear George Halas is. If you're a fan of football, especially if a Bears fan, he was one of the founding members of the NFL. He brought Chicago football, to the forefront when he took over the Staley Bears and they became the Chicago Bears. But his family had several members of his family worked at Western Electric, and he had even summer interned there that summer before. So they were invited, and he was running late and missed getting there for the boat. And he figures, I'll just take the second boat. He was scheduled to be on that one. So he could have very well, and his family could have very well lost their lives.
Right. How lucky is that? We do have a lot of people from circumstance or premonitions that won't get on the plane, won't get on the boat, or just get kicked off for some reason and find out that saved their lives.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Those go back. I mean, people having premonitions with flights and stuff, that's a major thing. Even people with the Titanic had
Right.
premonitions and didn't go, decided to not get on board the ship when it was in England before it started heading here. But yeah, the Eastland was very sad.
Are we finished with this photo now?
We are.
Okay, you remove
We've
that.
we've got Al Capone coming up. I know everybody knows who Al Capone is. He is one of the Chicago's biggest gangland gangsters, although he was not originally from Chicago. He was a gangster in New York who was brought to Chicago by Danny Torrio. And
wait, was he brought to work
yes,
with the gang?
yeah.
With the gang? Okay.
Yeah, he was brought. They believe he actually murdered the leader of his gang so that Danny Torrio could take over the South Side gang. Yeah, but he had a big rivalry. As there was a truce for a while. He had a big rivalry with the North Side gang, and Bugsy Moran ran the North Side gang, and they were both encroaching on each other's territory. They had had a truce, but when the North Side gang's leader was murdered and Bugsy Moran took over, the truce kind of went away. And then Al Capone also was amping up, and then they were blaming each other for murders of people in their own gangs. So on the biggest gangland massacre, the single, planned, I should say, took place on Valentine's Day, 1929. So it's coming up on 100 years. And two men came in dressed as police officers, Chicago police officers, and they had Oh, that's really neat. Related to Al Capone. That's neat. Um, they had two plainclothes gentlemen with them with long overcoats, and they entered this garage at 2122 North Clark, which is now kind of in Boys Town, the area, or a little further, maybe a little further down from Boys Town. But they entered in, and they said it was a raid, and they took 5 gang members who were there, plus a doctor who had a bit of a gambling problem and who was there probably paying off a debt or placing a bet, up against the wall. And then the mechanic, John May, who was underneath the car working on it, they took him and put him up against the wall. And then the 2 guys who were in the plain clothes moved their jackets and pulled out 2 Tommy machine guns and sprayed their bodies with, some of them were hit upwards of 50 times, but they sprayed their bodies with bullets. And then the 2 that were dressed as police officers pulled off 2 sawed-off shotguns, walked over to Bugsy Moran's brother-in-law, who was his lieutenant. They were thinking it was Bugsy Moran, actually, because they looked very similar. They were dressed the exact same way. And they blew his face off. And for some unknown reason, the mechanic, who was just a mechanic, they blew his face off too.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And believe it or not, when the police actually got there, these guys got out, by the way, because they put the other 2, had their hands up in the air, and the 2 police officers led them out. So people thought, oh, the police are there handling it. And that's how they got away. The whole time, Bugsy Moran was sitting at a coffee shop because he saw them going into his garage and thought it was a raid. So he, his lieutenant, they were sitting there, and then they saw Henry Gusenberg starting to walk towards there, and they stopped him and told him there's a raid going on. That saved his life. But his 2 brothers perished, Frank and Peter. And the only one who survived temporarily was, I believe it was Peter Gusenberg. And the officer, Sweeney, who was interviewing him, kept saying, "Who shot you? Who shot you?" And he said, "I don't know. No one shot me. No one shot me." And when he got to the hospital, when he was on his deathbed, it was 3 hours later, they asked him one last time, "Please tell me who shot you." And by the way, Sweeney grew up with their family, so they knew each other. And he said, "Nobody shot me. I ain't no copper." And he died. He took it to his grave.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
We all know it was Al Capone. We all know it was Al Capone. Even the police had arrested some of the Capone members. And of course, then Capone assassinated 2 of them himself. But in 1967, the building, oh, by the way, the German Shepherd survived. John May's dog survived the attack.
Oh, thank God.
But I think his ghost is barking in that area still to this day after he did pass, probably looking for his master.
Oh my gosh. Do let me know when you want me to put the picture up.
Oh, you can put the picture up. I'm about to talk about those bricks right now. In 1967, they tore down the garage, and they put these bricks, some of them still with the bullet holes. The blood was still on all of them. They put them up for sale. And one gentleman from Canada bought 200 of the bricks, and he put them in his nightclub on display. He rearranged the wall, he put it back together. And of course, his business went bankrupt several years later. But people who bought these bricks actually tried to return them because of bad luck. Accidents, different things in their family, just all these horrific things would happen when you had these bricks. And they finally, the other bricks kind of passed around. They're, like I said, there was only 300 total, but 200 of them are in the Mob Museum in Las Vegas. But it's still, they were cursed. People had apparitions showing up at their house, coming out. One person described the brick as having a shadow figure come out of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It terrified people. It absolutely terrified people. Bad luck and tragedies followed these bricks. And the city of Chicago will not let another building be built on that ground. It's a courtyard for a nursing home, and it's so haunted that they can feel the hauntings in the nursing home.
This is what I'm going to say. Was that a good idea? We won't build anything, but let's let everybody go out there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's an actual, it's a courtyard, but especially at night, you can hear the sounds. People have heard machine gun fire. You know, people have heard a dog barking, you know, probably wailing, thinking about, you know, his owner being dead there. But even one of the guys who died, Jack Clark, he haunted Al Capone for the rest of Al Capone's life, terrorized him. And they have people who actually heard Al Capone talking about being followed.
Oh
You know,
my goodness.
I mean, it could have been the syphilis that he had, but or you know, that could have led to the paranoia. But it was at that, or he found that guy was just following him as payback.
Oh yeah. You can imagine that if somebody, you know, stepped out of their body, their dead body, and knew what was going on, that would be something. Wouldn't, you know, well, yeah, I got time on my hands, so I'm going to follow him around and, you know, a little payback here.
Yeah, it's very sad. I don't personally think I would put any of my relatives in a nursing home that was right next door to a massacre. I think it was a bad idea for them to build that even there.
Well, they're going to be disturbed by it, but also if they see stuff, are they going to be, is anybody going to take them, you know, think they're in their, you know, out of their mind, you know?
Yeah.
No grandma, there's no mobsters out there, you know.
Well, but
like give her a pill.
Yeah, but dark shadow figures are even by the nursing home itself.
My gosh.
I just would not, I wouldn't want to work there. I wouldn't want to live there. And I wouldn't want to be walking by, which I have, mind you, at night. I wouldn't want to be walking by that courtyard because you do feel like you're being watched. You feel, you know, you feel like you see where the trees are, almost like a shadow figure looking around the tree at you. It's very, very tragic and very scary.
I think with the amount of horror that was there and firepower and all of that, all those people dying at once and this horrific thing happening, that has to imprint, just like it did, you know, its thing on the bricks, imprint something there.
Oh,
because this is, you know, horrific. What the heck? You know, this is just like, I don't know how people can do that. And they should. I'm glad they preserved the bricks, you know.
Yeah. I don't know where the other 100 are. To just know where the 200 are in Las Vegas.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Who has the 100 bricks? Oh,
exactly.
My God. What a story. Yeah. And, you know, and I think that's taught in school because I heard about it in school when I was growing up. Just crazy stuff.
Oh,
These people. Are we finished with that one?
Yeah, and it leads us into our next one because it's also got Al Capone's fingers all over it.
Which one is that one?
Grove Cemetery.
Okay. Let me find it.
Yeah,
there it is.
The Bachelors Grove Cemetery is a cemetery that actually was opened in 1833 or 34. There was only 200 graves, and they never quite filled all of them. But there's also this like slough area that is, I guess they've called it a pond or, you know, a swampy area that is on the grounds, which leads me to Al Capone. In the 20s and 30s, the Bachelors Grove Cemetery, because no one had been buried there since probably the turn of the century back then, and it was kind of like left to its own devices, kind of abandoned. Mobsters used to and take their victims out there and dump them. I don't know if any bodies were ever found. It was speculated. I don't think they ever dragged that slough area or swamp area. I mean, because let's face it, it was mobsters dumping mobsters. They weren't finding the bodies, but that was during Al Capone's dominance in Chicago. And since he was part of the South Side gang, Bachelors Grove is on the south side of Chicago, right in one of the suburbs called Midlothian. But that's not the only thing that sets this in the haunted realm. People have seen a black dog at the entrance, and when you try and approach the dog, it disappears into thin air. It doesn't bark or anything; it just disappears. People have seen, and these are ghosts, and these are people paranormal investigators, have seen a two-headed goat. The two-headed goat has been seen since the 1940s or 1950s, just roaming through the cemetery. Another weird thing is the disappearing house. There's a farmhouse that has never existed as long as they know, they have records for. But a farmhouse appears, and it has flickering lights. It kind of glows. It has been known to shimmer and raise up off the ground, shrink, or just flat out disappear. And the phenomenon has been seen by hundreds of people, including several paranormal investigators. And I believe that started appearing, or at least it started being documented in the 1950s.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was very wild. But there's also a group of men, German immigrants, who were working on the Illinois-Michigan Canal, and they ended up being killed while building the canal. Mm-hmm. And they were just mass grave buried there. And so they are said to they have seen workers wandering in the cemetery itself.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know why it's named Bachelors Grove?
It started out as, I think it was called Idle or Idle. The name was changed sometime in the mid to late 1800s, but when it was first built, it was Evandale or something. It was named after the woman who purchased the land in 1833.
Oh, okay.
And actually started the cemetery. But it's been called Bachelor Grove. It's been called Bachelor's Cemetery. And the name, I guess, just stuck. Or the man who started doing, the burials or took over the land that was deeded for the cemetery. It's possible that he changed it, but I'm not sure why. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I've ever seen anything as to why the name was changed. I just know that
there's so many cemeteries that just get lost, and the one in San Diego that is you're going to have to come out, and we'll go to Pioneer Park, and it's called a park, right? Well, this place was a cemetery, and of course it got in, kind of disrepair and all of that. So San Diego decided that well, let's use it as a park. So they bulldoze these beautiful, oh my goodness, there is one that is solid like calcite. It is beautiful headstones and so interesting. A lot of military people, veterans, and a lot of priests and all kinds of stuff. And there was a section for the children and everything. They bulldozed their headstones down into the canyon. And to this this day, there's a dark entity that ended up being down in that canyon, and they made it into a park and planted, filled everything in. No headstones or anything, and people, just happily go there, and they play in the park and have their barbecues and sit on the grass, and they're sitting over people. And then San Diego is famous for asphalting the roads over the graves, all over Old Town, everywhere. And all the priests are in the parking lot under where you park. I mean, I'm like, this is insane. And so much ghost and activity there. And we've had a protective ghost, a little girl ghost, and there's like a grandpa guy that protects her, and just all kinds of stuff happening. And that when it rains, there's this one place that will get saturated with water and make a depression and a puddle and outlines a casket.
Oh wow.
And it's just like, I just, to me it's so horrible, but it is so darn haunted. And it's like, it's desecrated, that whole thing. I don't know, you got to go back. This wasn't like forever ago,
See,
you know.
Bachelor Grove was eons ago, and there is some desecration because they have had kids go in there and try and devil worship, or
Oh
do some,
no.
yeah, they
Yeah.
do, just desecrate things. But there's the hauntings don't stop with that. There's actually some that have been almost felt like they were dangerous. There's a phantom vehicle that chases you down and
Oh shoot.
disappears.
Oh my gosh.
There's a farmer with his plow horse who disappear. They believe the farmer originally was farming the land nearby, and he ended up in that sloth area, that swampy area I told you about.
Hmm. Hmm.
His horse perished, but they're seen plowing land with their ghostly plow. Um, the interesting one is, I know everyone has a lady in white, but I don't. This one's a little weird. On a full moon, they have seen a lady in white weeping and carrying a baby around the cemetery. And there is actually a picture. You can go to the Sun Times. They actually printed it, of a woman. There's a ghost that sits on tombstones, and someone was taking pictures of the tombstones, and they didn't realize until I developed the film that there was a see-through figure of a woman sitting on the headstone, and the Chicago Sun Times actually printed that photo.
Oh wow.
So there's a lot of strange things that happen at Bachelor's Grove, and no one has been buried there. I think the last burial took place in maybe the 1920s or the 1930s,
Oh
maybe.
wow. Yeah.
So there's actually empty graves there that you could purchase a plot, if they allow. But they, I don't think they've done that. I don't think anyone's out there marketing, "Hey, come to Bachelor's Grove where you never have to,"
No.
you know.
Oh
But
my gosh, that would be awful.
and you see, if you look at the picture, that fence never used to be there. But when kids started going in and throwing, trying to scare each other, getting drunk, they found some devil worshiping things. They found pentagrams. They found animals that were sacrificed and things.
Yes. Yeah.
And they took like a sledgehammer or something to many of the headstones that are over 200 years old.
Wow.
So they put a fence up to keep
Yeah.
people from doing that. And
Yeah.
this is off the beaten path too. Very hard to
Right.
find.
Wow. Here in Old Town, I have a friend, and they'll take a cigarette and they'll light it. And because there's this one ghost at the back of the old cemetery, and they put the cigarette on the top of the headstone, and you can see it take a drag
Oh
and
wow.
then smoke, take a drag and smoke. And that's crazy. That is
That is
crazy.
wild.
Um,
That is.
I see Cathis has a comment. It's kind of long. Let's just show this.
There we
I
go.
know a place in the near town area of Houston, Texas, where apartments were built on the top of an old slave cemetery. No one occupies the building. It's overgrown with weeds. Yep, I bet they didn't want to be in those apartments when stuff started happening. It's just sacrilegious. I mean, I just go, I don't get it. And yet, I think in a lot of places, there will be people that have a story that somebody took the land and moved all the people, or and there's been what some scary movies done about that, and have just like, I can't believe you can see taking people out and this, that, and the other. And they did let people be taken out of the old Pioneer Park cemetery, but I think only kind of one family, claimed someone and reburied her. But
Yeah.
to bulldoze the tombstones, it just,
They're supposed to be the
crazy.
body.
Right. And I just, that's so sad. But no wonder that there are ghosts that roam many cemeteries. And when I go and I talk to a ghost at a cemetery, if they're hanging around, they're just, usually like, I'm just looking for my wife. We had one guy that was just said, I'm waiting for her to come. She's going to come and I'm going to be right here. And then we'll go over across these,
Yeah.
together. So lots of different things, but a lot of them are confused or whatever. And so,
Also a lot of angst and a lot of anger if they died violently, that
yeah,
can keep their spirit there.
right. And
Attack.
can you imagine the people that were killed, the mobsters killing the mobsters? Here they come. Here's another one. Drop it in. I
Exactly.
mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Um, just, amazing. Chicago has a great history of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and this is just a snippet. I mean, I could probably do 10 shows just on the cemeteries alone that we have that are haunted. And I don't know if any, I mean, you guys are going to think maybe my family's a little crazy, but we used to have picnics in the cemetery, which might
Oh,
be a
yeah.
Chicago thing. I don't know.
That goes way back.
Yes. Yes.
Way back. Yes, it
You would
does.
have you would actually go and sit by your family members' graves and have picnics. We used to do it all the time. My aunt and uncle, my cousins, and my parents. We would make a picnic up and we'd go to like Rose Hill or one of the other cemeteries and look at the different graves and go, and there's a little island that we'd go and sit on and have our picnics. And a
Oh,
lot of
that
people have
is.
told me I'm a little crazy for that, but
Um, the one thing about that goes way, way back, and they have the pictures, old photographs of the people in the long dresses, and maybe they're all in it's black and white, and they're sitting there. Here's the sandwich. Here we go.
here's Uncle
And
Edgar's headstone.
and I know a lot of people do that, and I think as long as now, as long as people go in peace and not to do any harm, then I think it's great. They can kind of watch, the activity
They would have
around.
their family. They would have their family reunions back then. They would have their family reunions at the cemetery.
Oh my gosh! Now wait a
And
minute.
there were
Oh
people.
my
There were.
god!
I mean, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they would have a family reunion. They would go to the cemetery where the matriarch and patriarch may have been buried, and they
I
would,
as,
they would kind of celebrate their lives or the fact that they were
wow.
there because of them and honor them with a
I'm
picnic.
sorry. I rather have a party at home with a cake. It's like we're the kids. They're seeing Uncle Roy over there, and everybody's gathered around Grandma. And I'm like, where's the potato salad? I'm like, no,
My
no,
mom
no,
wants
no.
to freeze dried and have a diet right and a Snickers in her hand and be brought out for family parties. You know,
Oh gosh, that's funny.
she always jokes about that. She's like, just freeze dry me, stuff me like
Oh,
taxidermist and just give
yeah.
you a Snickers and a
We'll just
diet
we'll
and a
just put you
diet.
away and we'll bring you out,
Yeah, bring me out,
Mhm.
put me in a rocking chair while, yeah, she comes
Oh
up with
my
some things.
gosh. Well, a lot of times too, we don't do some of the things that we used to do, but I experienced it in my family where they have the casket in the living room. That was very weird. That's weird.
I grew up in a house where a guy was laid out in my living room before we bought it. It was the prior owner's father.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you always, I'm so glad now that when you buy a house, they have to tell you if it's haunted. The law, at least here, if
I don't
you
think
have to disclose a haunting,
I don't think it is here because my son was never had anything disclosed about this house.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Nobody said anything. But I think the thing is that I think it's a good thing because it gives it validation that there's paranormal activity and there's spirits and stuff happens, around. And people are always surprised when they move into a house and there's something, and they found out the person died in the house, and
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, I want to know if I will never buy a secondhand bed because I will be wondering, is somebody die in that? So this is kind of okay. This is kind of gross, but I did know somebody who died in their bed, or he didn't die in the bed, but was on his deathbed and did get transported off and the state cell. And I said, "Are you kidding me? Aren't you having that mattress picked up?" I mean, really, he
yeah.
was on that for days. And they go, "No, somebody bought it." And I'm like, "Oh God, I can't. I
Not for me.
can't." Um, let's sit. Okay, here we go. A Native American culture, after a family member dies, the family has to live with the body until it's buried. Um, and you know what? When I'm doing the paranormal investigation at my local cemetery, we noticed that Asian families would come and somebody was sitting there. So they would have an ice chest and their lawn chairs, and then other people would come until it got dark, very dark, and then they would pack up and go. And this was so many days that they did that. So I thought that was really interesting.
That's how my
But
family always was. There was uh my mom growing up in the mountains, they would lay out, especially the children, they'd be laying out on a table and people would be there for day and night until the person was buried. It was That's why it was called a wake. You were there
oh, to stay awake.
waking awake.
You know
Watch.
what? Don't you think it was probably to make sure that they're safe, or their soul's safe, or whatever?
Probably, and it was a way for everyone to kind of grieve together. I know that in the Jewish culture, you have a shomer or someone who sits shiva over the deceased
Hmm.
until overnight, until burial. Um, and
That's scary. That's scary.
yeah, well, there's that horror film based on that,
That's
which really is terrifying. But yeah, I think every culture has had something like. In my family, part of I want to say it's my Norwegian culture. I don't know. Uh, I have pictures of my great uh, uncle in his casket from when he died when he was little. Uh, they hired a professional photographer. There's pictures of my grandmother and her sister, my great aunt, at the funeral. And like I said, there's pictures of him in his casket. There's pictures of other family members. When my brother passed away, we took pictures of the family together with the casket. Took pictures of my brother in the casket. Same thing with my dad. Same thing with my niece when she passed away. My sister had a professional photographer come in and take group photos and take pictures with everyone with the casket. That's just something that's been in my family. I know people think that my family is like morbid or something. But no, it's a tradition. And I've met so many people now who do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Cathis is saying in Texas, person dies in the house, you have to disclose it.
Yeah. See, I don't know if necessarily they do here. I mean, although I went through the history of my son's house and found that someone had died in his house, but then again, this is a 112-year-old house, so
Mm-hmm.
there's bound to be someone
Wow.
dying in this house.
Wow. That's an older house for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think the most disturbing pictures that I've ever seen is the era that they took the pictures with the corpse with the metal pole and posed them. And worst one I ever saw was when all the siblings, the little brothers and sisters, were on the couch, and at the end was the dead one.
Yeah.
All posed, and you could see the kids like, and I go, I don't know what people were thinking.
That was big on my British side. And it, there's a movie called The Others, and they're showing all these pictures of these people who were posed when they were dead. I've seen pictures like that. People do have scrapbooks like that of yes, the Victorian era. They did a lot of that. They posed one last time with their family members, or they just set them up and posed them before they were buried.
I'll disclose this right now. I've told everybody, I said, when I go, nobody gets to see me. I'm gone. No service, nothing. Go out and have a drink, have a party, whatever you want to do. But no.
I'm going to National Enquirer you, and I'm going to go in there and snap some photos. I have on the podcast as your avatar.
Oh, you can start now. Here I am. Oh my God. No, I was just like, no. I don't know. I'm just like, I don't like the dark stuff and the crying and I tend not to go to funerals and stuff. And because I don't know, I always tell people I'm not an empath, but oh my gosh, I will cry. I will, and I'm really Miss Spock, but I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so bad, so bad.
I can go to a funeral that I don't know the person, and I just start crying. Right. I feel it around me, and I just start wailing.
Yep. I had a relative that I went ahead and went to, and I'm not related to her, but my extended family is, and it was just so hard. So I will confess that when my brother passed, I knew that he was going to pass, and I just can't. And every time I thought of it, I go, I can't. I'm just not going to be able to do that. And so, of course, I'm a little bit estranged from the family now because I didn't go. And it didn't mean I didn't love or care for him. It's like I felt like I couldn't survive. And so those are really hard, but it is what it is. You get in with that energy. You get in. Even the little kids, one of the funerals I went to, the little children in the front pews said, she's not dead. She's right there. She's waiting. And I'm like, yeah. And so, it was just, to me, it's so utterly, sad. So when I go, you don't have to stay awake, but you can live it up. It's okay. What are you going to do? Like, Cara, I figure like the portal opens with the white light. Do I go for it? Or do I go, wait, can I just see who shows up at the party? What the flowers look like.
I don't know. There's a few people I'd really like to haunt. So I don't know if I'd be the light or if I'd be just kind of knocking things over, hiding things,
Oh my gosh. You know what? There's a good movie in that. It's like, I died. Okay, I'm going to go mess with a lot of people, Yeah. What if you go there and you can't move anything and you can't make any noise yet?
I want my money back. I'd be like, hey, wait a minute.
Yes.
You didn't tell me. have this power. Come on now.
And you talked about Resurrection Mary.
She is going to be next week. She's in my haunted cemetery tour next week.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Next week, awesome part 2 of Chicago Ghost Stories.
We're going to talk about several cemeteries and some seriously haunted experiences. And I've experienced some personally. So
Oh my gosh.
it's going to be
I
fun.
know it's like, I think too that certain people are attracted to the other side. And like, since I can communicate with them, I feel like they're always here. You guys might see, an abundance sometime of orbs flying around me. But when they really come in, and they come in because they're invited to help sometimes with readings, they will come in and they just press there. And I go, okay, I acknowledge you. You can back off a little bit, because this is the mouth of the soul. And so when it's uncomfortable just a little bit, but they'll say, oh, like, I'm here. And I go, okay. But we're used to kind of having ghosts around and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not bothered, but I know a lot of people are. They don't want them around.
Yeah.
So.
I'm waiting for my dad to show up next week when I tell his ghost story when he was a milkman before he became a police officer.
Oh my gosh.
I'm waiting for him to show up and start tapping you and going, hey, tell her she's got to get this right.
Yeah. I will let you know. I do tend to say, when I know there's a spirit here, I tend to tell people and say, I'm recording most of the time, and I'll just say, okay, somebody's here for you. And then sometimes they should, tell me who they are. One day I saw, imaginary, I don't know. I saw them like they're solid tarot cards just come out, right there with the letters on it, put it together, and I had the name. And then my client knew, hey, that's my mom. And so it's just so strange how things come in. But great that we have communication with the other side. And we know there's just so many people, Cara, that have seen ghosts. We can't say they don't exist.
Yeah, it's like aliens. I don't know if there's any aliens that have come down here, but I sure as heck am not ignorant or oblivious to the fact that, you have to have a big ego to think that there's nothing else alive out in the universe. Right. They may not have the same ecosystem or something, but you don't know what's beyond the black holes. You don't know what's in other galaxies.
Oh, right.
You don't know if there's a planet that's very similar to us or what. So, but same thing with ghosts. It's, if someone doesn't believe, or they haven't been able to see or feel or hear a ghost, that's their prerogative. But I was raised around them. My parents loved haunted houses, or to live in them. So we can't be, we can't disregard these things, these unexplained things. There's something there.
I seen fairies before, but you can't see them to the naked eye. I have, Zoe, that, on Psychic Fixes, she sings the fairy language, which she learned growing up when she was talking to the fairies, and very much into fairies and elementals. And I'm just like, as far as fairies go, they said, oh, just to invite them into your garden. And I'm like, you know what? I've heard too much about them biting and mischievous, and I kind of don't need that around. So they're not. No. When you think of fairies, you think, oh, Tinkerbell, come on over. And then these little things going, zzz, ink. No. I don't need that. I don't need it. Got enough stuff. But anyway, we are past our hour. And you guys, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And please, Kit will be on Sunday night doing readings for you. And on Monday, David Starlight. He's going to be on with me at 3 p.m. Pacific, and he is a Buddhist, and he's going to talk all about love, light, and calmness, and what we can do for ourselves and stay healthy. So please come and watch David and I on Monday. Then I'll be back Tuesday night with Kit. And next Saturday, Cara and I are going to be doing Chicago Ghost Stories Part 2. And we're just having so much fun. And this is just our second show. And we all week, don't we just go, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. We text it, I can't wait. So thank you guys for listening and sharing your stories as well. We hope that you can chime in and tell us some things in the next show because we love your little notes. So, Cara, any last words?
I am super excited for next week. I can't wait to do some more cemeteries and to talk about the devil baby of Hull House.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We've got
You
it. We've got to tease that all week. That is great. And you guys, Cara does gratefully and accept
Louise.
tips, and her tip link for her storytelling is in the description. And please, if you feel you want to, that would be
Oh,
great.
that would be amazing. Thank you to anyone who does that. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Cara. I'll talk to you later, but stay on. And we'll see you guys next Saturday. So exciting. Okay,
Yes.
bye-bye, everybody. Bye. Bye, Maurice.